Hi, I'm Skilla, and this is Nerd Stuff with Skilla. Today I wanted to talk about episode 5 of season 1 of The Gifted. This episode is called Boxed In, and if you have not gotten caught up on The Gifted yet, you might want to go get caught up before you watch this video. I've really enjoyed this series so far. I thought this episode was pretty good. Let's start with a little bit of a rundown. Reed comes back to the mutant underground to mixed emotions. The core group of mutants who we've been following through most of the series are okay with him being there. And then the Strucker family, of course, are happy to have their father back. But some of the mutants who are at the compound are not happy about it, particularly Tex. They are upset because he has spent a lot of his life prosecuting mutants and sending them away to prison. And also he was helping Sentinel Services in the previous episode track a route to the Mutant Underground's headquarters. I know he did, of course, back out of that in the long run, but not all of the mutants are convinced that he is on their side full time. In order to get Sentinel Services off of Polaris and Eclipse's tail, he decides to put himself out there as bait. Now, this is successful, even though Tex his name might be Dave, but I've been calling him Tex this whole time because he runs a bar called Tex's Bar. And Tex has the ability to turn himself and at least vehicles around him invisible. He does get back in time for dinner, so that's good. Meanwhile, the Strucker family has been trying to save Trader's life this whole time. Now, he's the guy who can, camouflage himself, but cameras can see through his camouflage, but the naked eye can't. He got shot in last week's episode, so the Strucker kids and Caitlin spend the entire episode trying to help him with his bullet wound. Now, it seemed to me like this was kind of just an excuse to have the family in the episode. Like, they probably could have resolved that whole situation pretty quickly. But it does also make the Struckers seem a little bit more important to the Underground, because Caitlin can do medical stuff, and it doesn't seem like they have anybody else in the Underground who can. Lauren helps her with that by using her little airbending ability to cinch closed an artery that is hemorrhaging in Trader, and that allows Caitlin to be able to sew it closed. Now, meanwhile, Andy is being a human blood bag, and he's pretty excited about the whole situation. He's a little weirdo, and I love him. They show their worth throughout this episode. We found out in this episode what the July 15th incident is. It turns out that there was a mutant protest that was going on, and things got a little out of control, and some mutant who was there let off like an energy bomb kind of thing, and that bomb apparently hurt a lot of mutants and humans, and also killed Jace Turner's daughter, which is his whole motivation for trying to track down and kill mutants, because they took his daughter away and he is not happy about it. It was already involved in law enforcement of some kind before that. I don't know that it made it clear if he was in Sentinel Services or if he was just like an Atlanta PD, but it definitely guides his wishes to harm mutants, that they took his daughter from him, which is really sad. But I really like what they're doing with Jace. I like his character a lot more from this episode. I think his drive is important and interesting, and I am enjoying it. Eclipse and Polaris are on the run, and they happen upon a roadblock that just so happens to be manned by Jace Turner, our horrible villain. There's no way Jace is going to be the main villain through this whole show. Let's just go ahead and say that right now. It's revealed in this episode that the Hound operation is going to be a thing in the show. They've already hinted at it just by having Roderick Campbell as a character. Now, in the comics, Roderick Campbell is the actual name of Ahab, who is the leader of a group called the Hounds, and they hunt down mutants. That's their whole job. And Ahab Roderick Campbell is a character in the show. He also goes by Rory, and I doubt that after they meet him, Polaris and Eclipse are going to name their son Rory. I think that might actually be something that they do in the show, where they make a comment on it. And you wanted to name the kid Rory. Ahab's ability, which he was not born with, is essentially to stop mutants who use energy as their power. I could see a reverse arc from what we saw in the first half of this season, where Polaris has to save Eclipse from the Hounds, since Eclipse's power is energy based. It's photon manipulation, and photons are energy types. They are energy. So I could see Ahab controlling Eclipse or stopping him from being able to use his ability if they're going to use the comic book stuff. If they're going to use the comic book powers of Ahab, who we haven't really seen much of in the show, but we know from previews he will be used more throughout the show. And I'm excited to see that because I think the actor who plays him is really great in comedic and dramatic roles, and I think he's going to do a great job as Ahab. Polaris and Eclipse kidnap Jace. He is manning the roadblock that they come upon, and Polaris has to talk Eclipse into every single step of this plan because clearly he's a little more tender-hearted than she is. She's basically been put in a prison by this dude and kind of tortured and like really hurt and put in really crappy situations because this dude hates mutants. Now he does have a good motivation for hating mutants, but that doesn't make her all that sympathetic with him. She really doesn't give a shit. She like strings him up with a piece of rebar and later on shoots a bunch of rebar into a bunch of cop cars. She is trying to get Jace to tell her what happened to Pulse. She wants to know how Sentinel Services convinced him to go against the Underground and be on their side, and he is refusing to tell them that. He does tell them his backstory a little bit, even though we already saw in the episode what his backstory was, and I didn't really have a problem with that. Like, they showed us and then they told us instead of telling us and then showing us later. I think that's better storytelling. Good job, The Gifted. They call in Dreamer to help extract these memories from Jace so they can know the information that they want. Dreamer gets Blink to portal the two of them into the building that they are holding Jace in, and she begins to do her little memory dust trick on him. She starts to, Vulcan mind meld with him, and she finds out some information, but not all of the information that they wanted. I know that we see the name, the Hound. There's a couple of other names that come up, but I did not find anything on some of the other names that we saw throughout the little snippets of memories stuff. The cops that are outside throw in tear gas before Dreamer is able to fully put Jace's memory back together. Dreamer, Eclipse, Blink, and Polaris all portal out of there before the building is overtaken by the Sentinel Services people. We see Jace later and he says he feels like a little scrambled, but the only thing that seems to be actually messed up about him is that he doesn't remember the death of his daughter. The scene where he goes home and he tells his wife that he's going to go check on Grace is absolutely heartbreaking. And I really like Jace as a character now. I think they did a great job with him in this episode for sure. Throughout this episode, Blink becomes suspicious that Dreamer has fiddled with her memories. After she sees Dreamer do Dreamer shit on Jace, she confronts Dreamer about it. And Dreamer admits to having implanted a memory into Blink's mind. And Dreamer says, "Hey man, I could take that shit away." Don't know why she didn't do that before. Think that's kind of weird. I think they kind of tried to explain it, but it really wasn't clear. Instead of letting Dreamer take that memory away from her, Blink just tells her to stay away from her. So that happened. And I really think that they're going to go in a direction because of the chemistry that Blink and Thunderbird have on screen. I think that they will end up in some sort of relationship, probably causing Dreamer to be kind of upset about it. And we'll see kind of a love triangle, Thunderbird trying to make things okay between all three of them, I guess. I don't know if that's really going to happen or not. I think it would be fine. Like, I wouldn't have a problem with that unless they did it really crappily. But I think they'll do okay if they chose to do that. I feel like that's where they're leading us to, especially since Blink chose to not lose those memories. Now, maybe we'll get a reason for that later. Why she didn't want her to, other than that she just didn't want Dreamer fiddling with her memories, which I guess is what we're supposed to think at this point. We saw less mutant powers in this episode, but there's still some cool moments, like when Eclipse put his hand out the window to take down the drone that was above him and Polaris. Anytime Polaris used her powers, it's pretty neat. And the little Aurora Borealis thing happened again. I think that the first scene with Polaris and Eclipse in this episode was kind of weak. A lot of the lines were kind of just, well, I guess that's just, word diarrhea, just whatever they felt like writing down. Nothing funny or interesting really happened, just the things that all humans say when they're in a situation like this. They just watched any 80s cop movie where they're chasing somebody or being chased by somebody and then use those words. It just seemed kind of wooden in the first scene, I guess. It seemed like they're kind of getting into the groove of things, It got better as it went along. Their chemistry got better. I don't think their chemistry is as good as Thunderbird and Blink, or even as good as the Strucker parents. They have decent chemistry. Hopefully that'll get better, because I think that their romance is going to be a big thing for this show, so we really need them to actually have chemistry, and I hope that that gets a little better as we go along. It isn't terrible now, but it could definitely be better. Now, other than that, like, I really don't have a lot of critiques of this episode. It could have been better, it could have been worse. It's not my favorite episode so far, but I think it's leading us in a really cool direction. I'm excited to see what they do next, and it's still a million times better than the other Marvel show that will not be named right now. I'll do a video on that later, and it's just gonna be terrible because I've already seen the episode and I know it's not good. I'm talking about the Inhumans. I will name it. It's terrible. Don't watch it. If you do watch it, just watch it so that you can enjoy my reviews of it, because that's the only thing it's good for, is making me angry. If you're not really on the Gifted bandwagon yet, I think that it's improving. I think that it's getting better, and I think it's going in a really cool direction. And, you know, I'm gonna keep on watching because I'm enjoying it a lot. Leave me a comment down below with what you think about The Gifted so far. Give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to hear about more nerdy stuff from me. And as always, thank you so much for watching.